As you are all probably aware, this night is being held in memory of my baby girl, Amrit. In 2005, my sister and I discovered we were pregnant at the same time, her with her first and me with my third. We were over the moon as our children would be playmates and grow up together, and we were already dreaming of them playing together and having an unbreakable bond. Amrit was the youngest of three and was born on the 21st of October 2005, 2 weeks before her cousin. I finally had my perfect family of 2 boys and a girl. Arundip, who was 6 at the time, was the big, proud brother. She was the easiest baby out of the 3, very placid and happy. Amrit had all her immunisations and was a healthy child. My special time with her, which I shall always cherish, was in the middle of the night, when she used to wake up for a feed and a nappy change. Health visitors always advise mums to do this with the least amount of disruption as possible so as not to disrupt their routine. Well, as some of you know, I love being told what to do. Each night, I would feed Amrit, change her nappy and play with her. And that was our special time together, without the boys, and which I look back on with a big smile. As time went on, Amrit began to develop her own personality. The boys loved making her laugh, and she had the most infectious giggle. Call me biased, but my daughter just got more gorgeous with every day that passed. Buying girls' clothes was a bit of a novelty for me after 2 boys, and in April, on a shopping trip to Debenhams, I spotted the cutest pair of designer white 3/4 jeans. And men being men, my husband complained of the price. And I, being the obedient wife, bought them saying it was a one-off and I won't buy anything so expensive again. Little did I know at the time the truth those words would hold. On 20th of April, me and the children went to see my mum, who had just returned from holiday. My sisters came with their children and we had a lovely day. That evening, as we were leaving to return home, one of my sisters commented that she thought Amrit was coming down with a cold, as she was a little bit snuffly. The following day, on the 21st of April, my mother-in-law came to visit and I mentioned Amrit was exactly 6 months old that day, and the conversation turned to how we were going to celebrate her first birthday, not knowing that day would never come. During the day, it became apparent that Amrit was under the weather as she had a runny nose and was developing a fever, which I controlled with Calpol. Other than that, she was quite happy playing in her little ring. The following day, Saturday, Amrit really had become a lot worse. Her temperature was cause for concern as it wasn't really going down with the Calpol and she wasn't really feeding properly. She was still being breastfed. We took her to the out-of-hours surgery where I was told it was a virus and to pursue with liquid on a teaspoon. When I voiced my concerns about dehydration, the doctor felt her fontanelle and reassured me as it was raised, Amrit was not dehydrated. How naive I actually was. We took Amrit home and throughout the evening she became more and more drowsy and I assumed it was because of the temperature. I now look back and can't help feeling a certain amount of guilt. Why were the alarm bells not ringing? Why did I take the doctor's word so easily and not question her? Why didn't I take Amrit back? In hindsight, it's really easy to go through the what-ifs, but if we put our trust in the medical profession, we should be able to have the reassurance. My advice to each one of you tonight is to follow your gut instinct and ask for a second opinion if you are not satisfied. That night, I set the alarm for every 2 hours so I could get some liquid down Amrit. Not that I slept very much anyway. Amrit slept in her crib in our room, so it wasn't too much of a problem to keep an eye on her throughout the night. When my husband woke up the next morning, he remembers Amrit was lying in her crib with her eyes wide open with a vacant look. I noticed she was cold, so I took her into bed with me and she fell asleep. When she still hadn't woken up by midday on that Sunday, I took her downstairs, changed her nappy and clothes, and she still slept. We called an ambulance straight away as she was grunting but not opening her eyes. I shall never forget the sight that greeted us in A&E at Birmingham Children's Hospital. There was a team of medics waiting to work on Amrit. As I stood in the corner of the room, it was like an out-of-body experience, as if it was happening to someone else and I was just an onlooker. And I remember someone asking me if they could cut through Amrit's clothes, which at the time seemed a very strange question in an emergency. After a while, the doctor told me they were taking Amrit up to intensive care, and even then the seriousness of the situation did not hit me, as I had every faith in the medical profession. Now it was just a matter of a waiting game, waiting for Amrit to wake up. Amrit was put on a course of antibiotics. The doctors suspected meningitis, but could not confirm until a lumbar puncture was carried out. And this wasn't until Wednesday of that week, once she had stabilised a little bit. My husband returned home that night with the boys, and I stayed with my baby. My sister and brother-in-law rushed down to the hospital, but I sent them back home telling them Amrit was going to be fine. After all, she was in the right place. I spent that first night on my own by Amrit's bedside until the nurse sent me to the family room to rest, promising to fetch me when Amrit woke up. I lay on the sofa that night, just watching the clock ticking, but no nurse came. After a couple of hours, I returned to the chair next to Amrit's bed, and that's where I remained for the next week, day and night, with my sisters taking turns to stay with me. Amrit was never left on her own after that. My sisters would sit with her whilst I caught the train back home in the mornings to shower and to see my eldest son off to school before returning back to the hospital. Each day brought more and more bad news as Amrit refused to wake up. I continued to express milk so she could be fed via the many tubes she was hooked up to. It was the only thing I could do for my little baby now, other than pray. CT scans showed extensive brain damage, and we were told if Amrit was to wake up, she would not be the same little girl. On the Friday night, my sister-in-law stopped with me, and the doctors tried to take Amrit off the ventilator, but she was unable to breathe on her own, so she was put back on it. Slowly, any hope for a miracle was fading, and I had to face reality. By Saturday, it was obvious the distress that my little girl was in, even when she was lightly touched. The doctors called us into a room and told us if Amrit did not show any signs of improvement by the end of that bank holiday weekend, we would have to consider switching off life support. This was when I finally broke down and accepted the situation for what it was. They couldn't control her temperature and had ice packs and cold fans on her. I could not bear to see my beautiful baby in so much distress. It was just cruel to prolong that pain. The following day, on the Sunday, my husband and I spoke to the doctor about switching off her life support that night. We decided to keep this to ourselves, as we wanted as much time with Amrit as possible. Maybe we were being selfish in not allowing family members to say their goodbyes, but I did not want to share the last few precious hours we had left with our little girl with anyone else. I asked my sisters to bring the boys in that evening to say goodnight to their baby sister. Little did they know, it would be the last time they would be doing this. Amrit had been moved earlier that day from the main area in intensive care to a side room to give us privacy during those last few hours. Once the boys had left, the doctor arrived and switched off Amrit's life support. I asked them to continue with the morphine as I didn't want Amrit to be in any pain. Once life support was switched off, just before 11 o'clock that night, Amrit was placed in my arms, the first time I'd held my baby in a week. I expected Amrit to pass away quickly, but she fought for nearly 11 hours before taking her final breath in my arms at 9:40 a.m. Leaving Amrit in the rainbow room which is a children's bedroom where you leave your child once they have passed, was one of the hardest things I have ever had to do. The next hurdle we faced was breaking the news to the boys. We drove to my mum's, and for as long as I live, I shall never forget the scream from my eldest son. Sachin was only 2.5 and too young to really understand what was going on. It was only a couple of months later, when we returned to the hospital for Memorial Day, that Sachin asked me if we were going to go and fetch Amrit. The following week passed in a daze in organising the funeral and dealing with a constant stream of mourners paying their respects. For one final time, I bathed and dressed my beautiful daughter, and she wore the white designer jeans. I really would not buy anything that expensive for her again. Once the funeral was over, I could finally concentrate on my boys and helping them through this nightmare. In fact, it was my 2 boys that got me through those dark days, and they are still my pride and joy today. I began Googling meningitis, and it was then that I came across Meningitis Research Foundation. I contacted them and was greeted by a very friendly voice who explained their work to me and the support they provide to those affected by meningitis. I realised I wasn't on my own. There were people to help me get through this. On Christmas Day, I remember ringing them in floods of tears, and the lady on the other side, on the other end of the phone, just listening to me and reassuring me. She got me through my first Christmas without Amrit. This is where some of the money raised tonight will go to help fund the 24-hour helplines. 4 months after losing Amrit to pneumococcal meningitis, the vaccination for pneumococcal meningitis was introduced. It was too late for my daughter, but how many lives has it saved since? And this is where some of the money raised tonight will be used for further research into providing vaccinations for all strains of meningitis. Raising awareness is another vital role of the foundation. You will have noticed some of the cards highlighting the symptoms on your tables. If you want to find out more about the work carried out by the foundation or read some more stories by people affected by meningitis, log on to their website. Let's not forget the other charity we are raising money for tonight, Birmingham Children's Hospital, which provides a first-class service to the local community and beyond. The staff work tirelessly to make sick children better. Even though Amrit was not one of the fortunate ones to walk back out of the hospital, the treatment she received was second to none, and I could not praise the staff enough for their dedication and hard work. My sister and I recently went back to the intensive care unit at the hospital to see where the money was most needed, and I could not believe the change over the past 9 years. There was a bedroom for parents which, through fundraising, had been provided to the unit, as well as a shower room, which would have been absolutely fantastic when I was there, and little things like that mean so much to the parents who are there constantly by their children's side. It's a priority for parents to stay close to their children when they're ill. Not only did Amrit receive the best care, but after she passed away, I was referred for bereavement counselling, and I saw a fantastic psychologist from the hospital for about 2 years. Without her help and support during that horrible time, I doubt very much I would be the person I am today. Having my daughter and losing my daughter were the best and worst times of my life. It is often said that no parent shall outlive their child, and I am living proof of how true those words are. I lost a part of myself when my baby left me. Every day I think of her and what could have been, what she would have looked like. Would she always have had her sunny personality? Which one of my boys would she have resembled? A million questions and not one that can be answered. She would have been 10 this year, And that is why we wanted to do something in Amrit's memory, in honour of my beautiful and wonderful daughter. The out-of-hours doctor misdiagnosed my baby, and if she had even taken her temperature, maybe my story would be very different today. I would never want anyone to experience a pain like the one I have lived with. So ladies and gentlemen, please be generous tonight and help raise as much money for these two great charities. Thank you for listening.